Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PFA Executive Vice President, Susan Carroll.
Remember me. That's our legacy, isn't it? Being remembered. And we want to be remembered for all the good things that we pass along to the rest of the world, right? Can you imagine what it would be like if you built an amazing legacy, a unique and special lifetime of you? And then it crumbled right before your eyes. And you can do nothing about it. It would be very frustrating, to say the least. But it doesn't have to be that way, does it? Don't we have the power to do something? Well, my grandmother had an early onset of Alzheimer's disease. She was the mother of 7 children who all ended up growing up to be leaders in their fields. She was an amazing woman. She was involved in every important worthy cause that came along. And her legacy lives on with the impact that she made on so many lives. And then I watched my mother slowly die for 10 years. She was very much like her mother. My mother positively impacted so many people in her lifetime. There are too many instances to count. She was a nurse, but as a child, I watched her go way beyond the scope of her profession. Daily, she served others. She was the president of PTA. She was my Girl Scout leader. She was our president of our homeowners association in our neighborhood, and the list goes on and on. And when I became a mother, and I was working full-time and going to school at night, and my sons, Zach and Wesley, were able to spend this wonderful time with their grandmother. She served as their mother during that time. And they saw the best of her, and they loved her so much. And then they had to watch this strong woman slowly decline. But she taught us all to persevere and to care for others. So that's what we tried to do for her. Unfortunately, all the blessings that she gave the world, it saddened me to see that when she was bedridden for the last 5 years of her life, she didn't speak. And all of those people that she impacted beyond her family, they didn't visit her. They didn't come to see her. And one of her friends told me, well, you know, your mother doesn't really know who I am anyway, so what's the point? Well, I quickly corrected her. I do believe that my mother did remember, and even if she didn't, it didn't matter. She couldn't express herself verbally, but you know, she always gave those nonverbal cues we all know to be positive, like her beautiful smile, the touch of her hand. And who's to say, you know, what kind of impact she would have had on that person when they visited. But I realized people didn't want to come see her because it made them feel uncomfortable. You know, like Jack was talking about earlier, you know, we feel uncomfortable. We don't want to do it. We don't want to change. So being uncomfortable, they didn't want to do it. So it reminds me, when I was on this tennis team years ago, there was a girl on my team, her husband was hearing impaired. As a matter of fact, he was born that way, and he had never heard the spoken word. But he was full of life, full of energy, and he loved to talk to people. So whenever he would come in the room, he would start talking to people. They didn't know sign language. He didn't care. He didn't talk to you in sign language. He talked to you in any language that he felt like that you could communicate with him. So he would come up to me and he would throw a ball up in the air and asking me, have you played tennis lately? Or he would go, like, are you working out still? Well, I'll be honest with you, it made me extremely uncomfortable. I did not like talking to Randy. But then, the more I was around him, the more I got comfortable with talking to him. And then I started thinking, when I knew I was going to see him, I started thinking about, oh, how could I tell him this, or how could I tell him that? I started thinking of ways to communicate with Randy. It made me feel uncomfortable still, but the more I did it, the more I got comfortable. So doing things that make us feel uncomfortable, it's good. For a couple of reasons. One, if we consistently do it, then we'll start feeling comfortable, right? And two, for me personally, doing things that make me feel uncomfortable means I'm using my brain. And using your brain is extremely important when you have Alzheimer's disease in your family. So I'll digress a little bit. The person that wasn't uncomfortable with my mother being bedridden was our daughter, Alana. She was a baby, never heard my mother speak. But Alana would climb on her. She would hug her, snuggle with her. And my mother had the most amazing impact on this little girl that never heard her speak, that never heard her say, I love you. She never experienced the things that a granddaughter would experience with her grandmother. But that didn't matter to Alana. When my mother passed, Alana made up a song, just an impromptu song, and sang it after her funeral. It was amazing, the impact. So I always think back at, even when we think that this person can't talk, this person doesn't know who we are, this person doesn't have any impact, we're wrong. Because no matter what state you're in, no matter what you're doing, you have an impact, positive or negative. Everybody has an impact. So Alana was forever impacted by my mother's presence, even without words. She brought joy and love and beautiful and meaningful legacy to Alana and to everybody that was around her. My stepfather once said that if it weren't for my mother, that he would die. She gave him a reason to go on. She gave him a reason to live. So the video you saw, Remember Me, is so powerful. It tells 3 stories. It tells the story of someone who wants to be remembered as they once were. It tells a story of someone who wants to remember what they can't remember. But I think most importantly, it tells us that we have a responsibility to remember. We're responsible for their legacy because it's the way that they lived their whole life, not just their last days. So a couple of statistics. I know Chris Lunn said that we lose people when we start speaking about statistics, but I think it's extremely important. Did you know that more than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's? And by the year 2050, that number could rise up to 16 million. It's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. And it kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. 1 in 3 seniors die, as you saw in the video, of Alzheimer's or some other dementia. And since the year 2000, do you realize that heart disease has declined by 14%? Alzheimer's has increased by 89%. That's huge. And Alzheimer's doesn't just impact the person with the disease, it impacts everyone around them. And more than 15 million Americans provide care, unpaid care, to people with Alzheimer's and other dementias. And last year, caregivers provided an estimated 18.2 billion hours of care, valued at over 230 billion with a B dollars. So I ask you, will you remember? So the good news is my mother and grandmother left beautiful and meaningful legacies to the ones who remember them. Those who remembered their positive impact on their lives and who remember their whole life, not just the end. So, with all that, I want to congratulate all of you and thank all of you, because PFA is known for setting records, right? Well, you all set a record this year, one that you probably don't even realize that you accomplished. And that is Dancing Stars Atlanta, who benefits Alzheimer's disease. This year, on May 6th, 13 dancers raised over $887,000. And PFA and National Life Group helped to contribute to me as I danced. We raised over $63,000. And I want to thank you all so much. It meant so much to me personally, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that I don't know about that have been personally affected by this horrible disease. So, for those of you that weren't able to see me dance on May 6th of this year, I humbly invite you to watch, and I hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Susan Carroll, and this is Rafael Avanzini.
How's it going?
Well, when I was asked to do this, I was really nervous about it, but Alzheimer's is a huge thing for me and my family. My grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's, and she had an early onset, and it was devastating to our family. And then my mother also suffered from dementia, and she stopped talking for the last 5 years of her life. And that was just so horrific to have my mother not able to talk to me and let me know how she was doing. And so it was pretty devastating. And so this is a super important cause for me. And so I want to dance for my grandmother and my mother in hopes to raise awareness of this horrible disease and to help people that are currently suffering with this disease, and also to help the caregivers because they work so hard. But it's been a great experience. We've had a lot of fun. It's just totally different than anything I've ever done, but it's just been awesome. And of course, since I have Alzheimer's in my family, I certainly want to keep using my brain, and this has definitely taught me a new skill, and I'm using my brain, so that's a good thing. So please vote for us tonight. We've been working really hard, and this is for Alzheimer's. This could be you. It could be your family. It could be one of your friends. So please, help us with this cause. I'm Susan Carroll, and I'm dancing to end Alzheimer's.
In the next corner, we have the heavyweight champion, the dancehall girl.